Welcome to the Follow the Leaders podcast, where we get a glimpse into the minds and lives of exceptional leaders and hear about their experiences, insights, and strategies for success. On today's episode, we'll hear from one heart-centered, effective leader and hear about their wisdom and perspective. So get ready to follow along. Welcome back to the show. We are going very local today with our conversation. Usually I describe myself as living in Madison, Wisconsin, but if you're local to Dane County, you know that when people say Madison, they could mean a host of other things too. And the more granular answer is that I live and primarily work in a small city that neighbors Madison called Middleton. I have lived in Middleton for 13 years and I love it for my family. I love it for my work as well. And today I'm talking with Kate Miller, who is president and CEO of the Middleton Chamber of Commerce, the central organization for Middleton-based businesses. The Chamber of Commerce is a membership organization that connects the Middleton business community by providing programming and networking opportunities to help foster growth, inspiration, and contribute to our greater community here. Kate has worked as a business professional around the country, working with enterprise organizations on implementing policies and processes around regulatory compliance. She has more than 20 years of experience in marketing, project management, membership development and retention, program development and engagement, and community and economic development. Congratulations on all of your success and impact, Kate, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about you and your story, and of course, talking about Middleton, which is near and dear to both of our hearts. But let's just start with what your current work looks like. Like, what does a week in the life of Kate Miller look like these days?
Yeah, well, we're a very, very busy chamber. We have around 700 business members, and we have 4 full-time staff members. We do a lot with facilitating connections, advocating for our business community, the hyper-local city, county, statewide levels, making sure that we're connecting our business community to their audience, and then making sure that they're engaged in professional development and education programs to help further their careers. So I guess the day in the life of a chamber executive is making sure that we are providing those types of things at a very high level or high quality.
So you lead your team. So I guess how much of your work is balanced between leading your staff and how much of it is more forward-facing? Our listenership is leaders. So we all are always thinking about like what's on the outside, what's on the inside. So yeah, how does it break down for you?
With a small staff, I think any small business owner, entrepreneur knows that, my focus is leading my team and leading the organization and making sure that I'm a good steward of our finances and that we're looking at strategic direction, sustainability, that type of thing. But we also know that if somebody needs a giant pair of scissors for ribbon cutting, I'm going to be there doing that too. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I do have a fantastic team. Kristen Parent is our programs and events manager, and she does a really good job with keeping her finger on the pulse of what does the business community need as it relates to the type of events to help them connect and then the type of events to advance their careers, programming and educational aspect of it. We have Lori Gerner, who is our membership development specialist, and she is focused on both recruitment and retention of our members, making sure that we're providing the benefits that will help advance their businesses. And then we have Cody, that's the glue between the two. Cody Brown is our membership and events coordinator. And so she really helps support both of those teams.
So you have so much experience in many different areas of business. So I guess, can you just kind of take us through your career path? I think so many of us are here where we are today, but our paths have been winding. So I'm just curious, like, where did your path take you and how did you get here?
Yeah, so I spent most of my early career doing implementation and contract compliance for large organizations. This will date me, but when some industries, there were regulations come for PCI compliance for like credit card companies and HIPAA, when HIPAA was kind of starting to be talked about. There are businesses who their clients are credit card companies, people who take credit cards, colleges, higher ed, and hospitals and clinics. And so they needed to make sure that the organizations were set up in a way where they were meeting the regulatory compliances that were coming down. And so I would go in and I went around the country and set up the compliance departments and made sure that the organization as a whole meaning accounting, IT, operations, customer service, all of it, HR, all were trained and informed on what their part of it was and setting up the processes to make sure that they were able to retain the business that they within those industries. So that's what I did for a really long time. And through that path, I met a consultant who was at one of the businesses that I was working at, and ended up years later seeing him again. And he hired me as the VP of Business Development for a data center company. And he hired me. I knew there would be an equity event. So they wanted to build their business over 5 years and sell. So that's what we did. That's the path that got me to Wisconsin. We built a data center in Fitchburg. You mentioned when you say Madison, it can be just about anything. It was our Madison data center in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. And so we built that data center. The equity event hit. We sold to TDS. They stayed on for a short time and then decided that I had spent a long time as a single parent moving around the country, working a lot of hours. And I took a break to try to think about, what do I want to do in the second act of my life? And I came down to two things. Madison, the Madison area is my home of choice. I wasn't born and raised here, but I absolutely love it. And so I wanted to do something where I felt like I was giving back to the community that I had loved so much and that brings so much joy to me. And I just wanted to feel like whistling at the end of the day. And I hadn't felt that for a really long time. And it just so happened that the president of our general contractor that built our data centers sat on the board of the Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce, reached out to me, said, hey, they're looking for somebody, not sure if you're interested. I applied, and 3 days later, I was working at the Fitchburg Chamber, which was my entrance into the chamber world. And I can tell you, I've nailed it in this industry with feeling like I'm giving back. And I almost always feel like whistling at the end of the day.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes it is just those like leap points, right? And I love what you said about, and I'm trying to think of the exact words you used about like, what did you want to do in this next chapter of your life? And I was just talking with another woman who's a business owner and local and about our age. And we were just kind of having this conversation about the back half. What did we want this back half to look like, right? Like, what do we get to create it if we are willing to take risks and, like you said, step away from something that was comfortable and really evaluate that. And so kudos to you for doing it. And I'm glad to hear you've arrived. That's wonderful.
You know, it's funny, everyone talks about, the next chapter of my life. And one thing that I view life as, it's not one book. Like, we have a library of books after you've experienced life, because life can come at you pretty hard and pretty fast. It can also be wonderful. But yeah, it's not just about the next chapter. Sometimes it's about the next book or its sequel. So yeah, when you get to a certain age, you don't just have one book, you have a library.
Well, I love that. I think there is something about people who are willing to, that is a big risk, right? Like, it's a big risk to be willing to make change. So it's a type of person, but it pays off. It definitely pays off.
One other thing, something else that's a part of who I am is in 2018, I lost my 22-year-old daughter. She was my only child.
I'm so sorry.
And it was unexpected. And that makes somebody really reevaluate their life and priorities and really what you value and what you choose to let bother you. But if somebody flips out on the Beltline because, you know, they felt like I cut them off and they're freaking out, I'm just like, man, if this is the worst thing that happens to you today, congratulations, man. Congratulations to you. And I choose not to get upset by it, because there's so many other things that you can expend that energy on that makes sense, but getting cut off on the Beltline is not one of them.
Right. Well, and the way you described, like, really taking that time to think about what you want in your next book, it's not the same story. Like, that's exactly what you're talking about, right? So sorry that you went through that, and kudos to you for now figuring out what you want for your next book, your next chapter. Well, so many people, like you said, was it 700 businesses locally get to benefit from your perspective and your expertise and this approach that you're taking. And so I'm wondering if you can paint the picture for someone who does not live here. Like, what is Middleton? What type of city is it? Can you share about sort of the size and scope and what the business community here looks like? You could think, okay, quote, like small town business, but there's so much more to that.
Middleton is a smaller community. Our population is less than 30,000, but we're very, very business dense. I mean, the Middleton Chamber is more than 70 years old. So Middleton's been around for a really long time. So we have this cute, picturesque downtown that has been revitalized, and a ton of small business owners and restaurants, very walkable. And then we have just outside of downtown, Greenway Shopping Center, which is large shopping, anything from high-end clothing to Michael's and craft stores and DSW, all of that. So it's a gorgeous community. It's small enough to where you know your neighbors. The school district is like always number one, number two in the state. Very successful with their athletic department. Great leadership there. So it's a community that people really want to be in, especially if they have kids, where they can live, work, play, do all of the things right here and be a stone's throw away from the bigger city of Madison.
Yeah, I just moved my office to downtown Middleton. And so I'm like really enjoying that, the fact that like everything is here. So now my kids go to school blocks from here. I live minutes from here. I work here. I can walk to the trails. I can walk to coffee. It's just, it really is, like you said, picturesque. It's a really special place. The tagline of Middleton is that we're the good neighbor city. And so I'm curious, like, do you see that vibe continue into the business community, or how would you describe like the vibe of the business community here?
Yes, I absolutely would say that it expands into the business community. And I think the business community has a lot to do with the overall environment of the city of Middleton as a whole. The business community is a group of hardworking, wonderful people who want to connect. And using connect might be, overdone, but I can tell you that when I talk to people who move here, business professionals that move here from other states, other communities, they are so impressed with just how focused our business community is on connection. And one example is, I had a gentleman from Florida who's been here for a couple of months, and he was like, what I've learned is that when somebody here says that they want to meet for coffee, like, they really want to meet for coffee. It's not their way of getting out of a conversation. Like, I get back to my office and there's an invitation to coffee. And I'm like, yep, that is our business community. True. And even if they're not sure that the connection will be directly with them, they want to know about that business or that business professional, because they know that down the road, they're going to meet somebody that they can connect them with. And so I do think that the good neighbor community definitely extends to the business.
I have to totally agree with you. And I've attended some of the Middleton Chamber's breakfasts, which are massive events. I mean, how many people come? Like hundreds of people come to these.
Yeah, we are just under 200 people typically.
Yeah, who come to these breakfasts. And every time you sit at a table and you exchange cards and you chat, and there's always a question of the meeting. And you really get to feel like you're making some genuine connections. And then you're so incredibly right. Everybody follows up with each other. Everybody adds online. Everybody sends a follow-up email. Even if exactly what you're saying, there's no clear way to work together for right now. Everybody's like, yeah, no, we now know each other. So I completely second that. I've had my business now for over a decade, but I am just recently started coming to the chamber events, and even as a new member, I feel completely welcome there. So it's been wonderful.
Oh, good. That's wonderful to hear.
So we talked about the breakfast, but I know you have another initiative that the chamber is working really hard on. So can you kind of fill us in on what you're doing for the workforce here?
Once things kind of shook out after that period of time that we shall not mention, where we were all working and like trapped in our houses for a couple of years, I really wanted to get out and meet with the business community. So I met with as many business leaders as possible over a 12-month period, and asked just a handful of questions. And the main one was, as a business leader, what keeps you up at night? And hands down, the number one thing was workforce. Like, we don't feel like we have the workforce we need. we have all these open positions, that type of thing. And when my business community speaks, it's my job to listen and then act. And so I sat down with my team and I'm like, workforce is an issue. Population is declining. Population coming into Madison is going up. We will say that. But people are having fewer babies. And there really is not an end in sight to that. So what can we do? There are a couple of things. We can work with our business community and our schools, starting in grade school, middle school, high school, and then higher education, and get them together and say, hey, what business community, what are your needs? And then, hello, schools, what can you do with your curriculum to help support that? That is something that I'm very passionate about, but that's going to take some time. So how do we fill the gap now? What we've done is we created a foundation, the Middleton Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Underneath that foundation, we started a program called Mission Workforce Alliance. And what that program does is it connects transitioning service members, veterans and their families to jobs. So businesses throughout the state now, we are statewide, can opt into this program, and they will have access to transitioning service members, veterans, and their families' resumes. And they'll be able to then search by skill, whatever, and then immediately have that workforce they need. One thing that really kind of stepped us into that demographic is there are over 200,000 transitioning service members every year. So what this program does is it helps with economic development to our state because we're bringing population in that may not have even thought about Wisconsin. And then it's helping with the workforce for our businesses as well.
And I remember seeing a presentation about this at one of the recent breakfasts. And can you just sort of explain what are the range of types of roles that the transitioning members are being connected with here locally?
The skill set is incredible. So anywhere from, we have CPAs, we have architects, we have people who are interested in being forklift drivers and groundskeepers. So it's a very, very wide range. Obviously, we have candidates that would be great in public safety. So a huge wide range of skill sets. Again, this really kind of started as a initiative for the Middleton Chamber of Businesses, but very quickly I started getting calls and emails from other chambers saying, how'd you do this? And we put a lot of financial resources and human resources into the program, into the portal that businesses can access. We provide training to all the businesses on how to not just recruit, but retain military talent. So really making sure that we're doing it right. And because I truly believe in connecting and sharing resources, I told the other chambers, you can do this. Here is all of the marketing materials, the presentation materials, the social media posts, graphics, everything you need. If your businesses want to sign up, they can sign up. So those chambers are doing what chambers do best, connecting their business community with Mission Workforce Alliance and those candidates. And we are now statewide.
That's very, very, very cool. I mean, just conceptually and what you're describing about like the cooperation that Middleton Chamber is providing with all the other local chambers, it makes complete sense in our area. Like we've talked about, everything is so integrated here. It's such a web of life and business here. So I love to hear it. And major kudos to you for spearheading this. It's a really important and incredible program. And I'm excited to see more. It'll be national someday, right?
I sound like my board. Let us get our legs underneath us. But yes, yeah, we're very, very proud of this initiative. We're very excited about it. And anyone who's interested, happy to have that discussion.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about kind of trends that you see as the president of the chamber. You get to see, you said 700, but over time, it's got to be more than that because members come and go, businesses open and close, businesses grow and change over time. And so I'd love to learn about some of the things that you see as trends across the landscape in general in business in 2024, but then also in small town business. What are some of the things that you see businesses that have the most growth doing right?
One thing is making sure that they are providing an environment that will attract the talent that they need. So I know a lot of businesses are really looking outside of the traditional 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 401k, 10 days vacation, whatever that is, and really trying to provide a package or several packages that are attractive to different demographics and that type of thing. So really doing the kind of hybrid work model. I think we swung really far for obvious reasons to work from home, and we're kind of evening out there, but really providing that work-life balance that the talent is looking for. You have to be in front of people constantly, not obnoxiously, but you got to remind people that you're out there and you're there, and there are ways to do that without busting the budget. So I think that's one thing that chambers do really, really well is they are looked at as a little bit of a extension of marketing and promotion to these individual businesses who have limited resources and likely no marketing person. So really trying to find the avenues of who's my audience and what are the best ways for me to get in front of them.
I like the way that you describe that the chamber can be sort of an extension of marketing, because you're right. So many, we can look and see like, oh, these are the main sponsors have huge teams, right? Like the biggest quote unquote members have huge teams that are huge corporations, but then there's so many. Yeah, I guess that is a separate question. Like, what is the breakdown within the Middleton Chamber? You have sort of these, big names, right, that everybody in town knows. But then what is the breakdown between that and, say, somebody who's a solopreneur? Like, where is the breakdown between sort of the different types of businesses that are members of the chamber?
So you're right. We have our large businesses and the banks and those types of things. Because of our great downtown, we do have a lot of small business, and we have almost 70 nonprofit organizations that are members. So we have a lot of nonprofit organizations. I would say the majority in small business can be defined a million different ways, but 50 employees or less would be probably the majority, and then larger businesses. But we market and promote our businesses, whether they have 5,000 employees or one employee. Our focus is to make sure that businesses thrive and grow in our community. And we also have businesses, it's not just Middleton businesses that we support. We have businesses throughout the Madison metro area that join because they know that they have customers in Middleton, and people may work here, but live somewhere else. So we really do have a very diverse, both business size and industry type within the organization.
Okay. Thanks for indulging that little tangent. I was just curious to break that down. All right. So back to the trends. This is maybe a little bit trickier of a question to answer, but what are some of the practices that when you see a business starting, one of the Middleton businesses, that you want to warn them, like, wait, you're going off path here. You don't have to name anybody, but I'm just curious, like, you see these things from a very zoomed out lens as the president of the chamber. So what do you see? And you're like, oh no, like that's not going to be
yes,
success.
I think you really need to understand who your audience is, what message will get through to that audience, and then where does that audience live as it relates to how are you going to market to them. And it sounds very simple, and it sounds very like it's something that's very easy to do, but it gets lost. I think businesses are excited, they want to succeed, they're just throwing things at the wall. And if somebody steps back and takes the time to really craft the message and understand their audience and know where their audience is getting their information, that's a big deal. I mean, it's what will get them through that first step. And we realize the importance of that. And one of our tier levels for our members is a marketing consult with a professional firm that kind of goes through. That's one of the things that they can work with them on, is how to stand out in a crowded marketplace and understanding your demographic and that type of thing. So I think really taking the time to know what your product is and who it serves, and then crafting that message around that is very, very important.
I could not agree more. One of my work projects is that I support moms that are looking to start businesses. And, everybody's always so eager to jump to like, I'm going to create the website. I'm going to do my pricing. And we spend the first part of our work together really just going back exactly what you're saying, coming back to the planning. Or another part of my work is that I support people who want to start podcasts, and everybody's like, what mic do I need? I need to start recording. And it's like, no, you need to take the time to figure out what makes you, you, what are you trying to offer? Who are going to be your listeners, or who are going to be your customers? It's the less sexy part of it, right? It's everybody wants to start recording or start promoting, but you have to take that time to create. So I completely agree. So what advice would you give to somebody who, besides taking time to plan at the beginning, but let's say they've taken the time to plan, they have their brand, they're ready to launch, they're opening a business in Middleton. What advice would you give to a new business owner that you think would help them lead to success here?
Join the Middleton Chamber, of course.
Of course. Yeah, there you go. Step one. One.
No, I do think I understand that Main Street businesses, it's really hard to come to events. They're running their shops, right? But a chamber membership is really important, and it does help connect you. But it's just like a gym membership. You can join a gym and never go, and you're not going to get the results that you want. There are many different reasons to join a chamber. If you're joining to network, you have to show up at the events. But chambers aren't just there for the networking piece of it. It's a great way to connect. But there are so many other benefits with the marketing and promotion aspect for those Main Street businesses that may not be able to get out to the networking piece of the benefits that are offered. And I would recommend, whether you're a member within Middleton Chamber or the Fitchburg Chamber, any of the chambers, really understand what the benefits are that come with your membership, and then use the heck out of them. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason that you can't reach out once a year and say, can I sit down and go over my membership benefits? Here are my business development goals. What benefits can help me reach those goals? People get in the habit of like, it's a networking event. I'll go to networking. There's so many additional benefits, and just being a part of a chamber's directory, it helps with SEO. It gets a lot of attention. So making sure that those things are updated. So I know, huge shameless plug for joining a chamber, but I mean, really, it's a great way to boost your business.
Well, and I'll also add a little plug for all of the learning opportunities. Even if you're not interested in going to network or schmoozing's not your thing, the Middleton Chamber and many of the other local chambers here offer the lunch and learns or virtual workshops where you can learn from someone. And the topics are very salient and important. And so that's impressive too. So I'll add that to your shameless plug there. Yeah. So, all right. So if we back up even before your career started, what was young Kate like? What were you like as a kid? Did you always gravitate towards these leadership and growth roles, or is this kind of a new adult thing for you?
So funny. My mom, when I was in my very early 20s, said, Katie, I think you should work for a Chamber of Commerce. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that is. Bye. Sure enough, here I am. So young me, very social. In fact, my mom would tell me that she would go to my conferences and the teachers would always say, she's very social, meaning she won't stop talking. Yeah, and I can remember starting a new school in 5th grade, and there were two groups of girls, and I liked both of them, and it was driving me crazy that I always felt like I was being pulled. And so I had a summer party where I invited both groups, and the principal called my mom the next week and was like, we've been trying to get these girls to get along all of grade school, and your daughter comes here and has one slumber party, and they're all so. Yeah, I think I like that connection. I like bringing people together. Those were different personalities. And like, I love surrounding myself with different personalities, different thoughts, different backgrounds. So yeah, I think I've always gravitated towards this without even knowing it.
Yeah, totally. It's always so cool. I always love the answers to those questions because there are always so many threads that run deep into our childhood that still carry forward into our work today, especially for those of us that are in these types of roles. We tend to just be who we are and thrive in those ways. So I love to hear that.
My mom, when I was about 5 years old, and this has stuck with me. So when I was about 5 years old, I don't remember the circumstances, but somebody said something that was likely prejudicial, and I didn't understand it, and I asked my mom about it. And she said, Katie, I want you to close your eyes. So I'm going to make you do it, Jamie. Close your eyes.
Okay.
And I want you to picture a flower garden. And in this flower garden, it's all the exact same flower. And every single one of them is white. And get that image in your head. And now I want you to picture a flower garden. And in this flower garden, there is every wild flower, every different type of flower. Some are tall, some are short, some are white, but some are red and purple and multicolored. And I want you to really, really picture that flower garden. So which flower garden, Jamie, would you prefer to be around?
Yeah, obviously the colorful one. Yeah.
And so the world is made up of people of different sizes, shapes, and colors. And that is the world that we want to be surrounded by. And I lost her almost a year ago to the day. And a few days before she passed, she asked me, Katie, do you remember when I told you this? Almost as if to say, this message needs to be put out into the world. And so now I'm putting it out into the world. Remember, the world is a wildflower garden. Businesses are different flowers and shapes and sizes, and the owners, surround yourself with them. It's beautiful.
I love that. And says a lot about who you are as a leader and who you are as a person. And so I really appreciate you sharing that beautiful anecdote with us.
Thanks for allowing me to.
So I have a couple last wrap-up questions for you. I think I might know the answer to this, but does anyone come to mind that you could shout out who believed in your leadership skills that contributed to being where you are now?
I mean, yes, obviously my mom, she was my biggest cheerleader.
She told you to work for a chamber. She's teaching you all these amazing beautiful lessons.
I know. She was a saint on earth. But, I have been mentored by great leaders. And time I felt empowered, it was them just allowing me to try something and saying, I don't know, I think this is a great idea, or let me at least try it, or allowing me free reign to a point, and then knowing when they needed to kind of reel me back in. And I tell my board and my staff all the time, I'm like, I will just go, like, you're going to have to rein me in, or we're going to be doing too much. So I try to mimic that with my leadership, where it's like empowering my team to be creative and thought leaders, and providing them with some of the lessons that I've learned to kind of help guide and shape what they're doing, but really giving them kind of the ability to test their own leadership and creativity skills.
Love it. That's great. So you juggle a lot between all of the things. And I'm curious, do you have one tool or strategy that you use to stay organized, whether that's like a tech tool or a paper tool, or like, how do you keep all of the balls in the air, so to speak? Some people use different websites or note-taking things. We're always hungry for resources here. So do you have a go-to strategy or method for that?
Oh boy. I am old school and I take a lot of notes, and then I use a spreadsheet to track things. It's funny, my team, when they see me start taking notes, they're like, oh boy, because it looks like the rantings of a serial killer. It is sideways. It is like circles and squares and stars, like it's all over the place, but it's the way my brain works. So then I can come back and kind of get it into a document that if for some reason I wasn't here tomorrow, somebody else could understand. And I am huge into mind mapping and using like whiteboards to do that. So mind mapping is my go-to. It always has been since I learned about it in probably grade school.
So then do you capture the mind map? So if it's a whiteboard, do you like photo it, or how do you get it from the map into something that you can refer to later, or does it just stay in your brain?
Yeah. So I will take the mind map. From that, there's obvious kind of categories and then tasks that fall underneath it. Then I also take that, and in order to get a methodology behind beginning and end, I'll use IPACE, which is idea, plan, action, control, and end, to make sure that there has to be an end. Otherwise, I mean, there has to be an end to that piece of it, and then you can create a new project from it. So I guess mind mapping and IPACE, the ways that I kind of work things out.
I wonder if ChatGPT could take a photo of your mind map and you could teach it I'm really going down a rabbit hole here, but you could teach it your iPace strategy, and you could say, take this mind map and put it into bullet point format or whatever.
That would be cool.
I'm curious about it.
What if ChatGPT just spit back out your nuts?
Yeah.
I cannot compute.
Well, if you get that response, then that'll be a good viral piece of content for you. So, all right. Okay. I have one last question for you. If you had one day off, you could make no mind maps, you could make no lists, you could do no doodles. You just had to take a day completely to yourself. What is one activity you would do and one place you'd go to get something to eat?
Kayaking and the tornado room.
Okay. That's excellent choice. Excellent choice. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Kay. I really enjoyed our chat and getting to know you. I hope this is just the beginning of our connection. And I know our listeners will benefit a lot from hearing your wisdom on this episode. Where can people reach out to you or learn more about the Chamber? What are the best sort of links that people should go to? And we'll stick those all in the show notes.
Yeah, great. Yeah, they can find us at middletonchamber.com. They can learn more about Mission Workforce Alliance on missionworkforcealliance.org. And they're both on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
Wonderful. Well, we will link all of that. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all the listeners, we'll be back next time with another inspiring conversation. Follow the Leaders is produced by Lit Path Studios, and music is by Shane Ivers. You can hear more about this show and all the other podcasts at Lit Path Studios by going to www.litpathstudios.com.